This is Reimagining Higher Education, your go-to podcast with remarkable education leaders sharing personal stories from their experience in and around the sector, including reflection and hope for progress in the sector. This week with your host, Professor Cliff Allan, former Vice-Chancellor at Birmingham City University and now Studiosity Academic Advisory Board member. Welcome.
Well, hello and welcome to this episode of Studiosity's podcast series, Reimagining Higher Education. I'm Cliff Allan. I'm a member of Studiosity's Academic Advisory Board, and I'm delighted to be joined in conversation with Dr. Zia Ul-Qayyum, who is the Executive Director of the Higher Education Commission in Pakistan, which is, of course, the main regulatory body for the nation's higher education sector, overseeing quality, innovation, and excellence in higher education, as well as providing strategic and financial support, primarily through government funding. Before joining the Commission, Dr. Zia has had a long and distinguished career in higher education with many senior leadership roles, including being the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Gujarat, the Vice-Chancellor of Allama Iqbal Open University, and the founding rector of Horizon University. And he's also had many advisory roles, advising and guiding many institutions in his country. His own academic background is in computer sciences and IT, with particular expertise and focus on artificial intelligence and its related areas, which is clearly a very important knowledge base to have in shaping higher education in his country around that whole area. Dr. Zia, welcome to this podcast, and it's great to see you.
Thank you very much, Professor Cliff. Thank you for providing an opportunity to share my views and ideas with yourself and people who would be really listening to our podcast. And it's really a pleasure seeing you as well. Talking to a colleague who is a senior academic in his own self. Yes. Thank you very much for anyway providing this.
Great. And in these podcasts, we always like sort of initially to explore our guests' own experience as a student, especially in terms of how it shaped you in terms of your future roles. So can you say a little bit about what university was like for you as a student?
Well, I'll have to trace back, going back in years 1980s and trying to recollect my old memories. When I started my university, Ellen, in way back 1987, 88, when I first enrolled myself to a master's degree in mathematics, precisely, I still can recollect that I always wanted to really study computing to start with, and the objective was to really get the skills to start a professional career, but choosing an institution which can provide more student experience in parallel, instead of really going for an institution with an institution, would be really more towards providing good academic environment, but less maybe the student experience. So I still remember I joined a university in my native city in Multan, and we actually then were lucky enough to get very good teachers in pure mathematics. I still really cherish those memories when I used to really attend their classes. And but at the same time, we had a very lively student body where we would have these student unions, sports activities being organized. I by myself was actually a very active member to play cricket. Cricket is, a crazy game. Pakistanis are all crazy about this game anyway, as we find the British people are crazy about football, maybe. So yes, we had the 2 years in university while earning my master's degree. It is still a memory which I really cherished whenever I could really find time to sit with myself, only with my own self. Yeah, it was wonderful. So a university which provides the students with all its inclusivity and diversity, the opportunity for the learners to really groom their own mental and physical abilities, not only going for the education, which would be their anyway primary task.
And it's interesting that you mentioned you had some inspirational tutors, which obviously contributed significantly to your
Yes.
future roles. And it's quite interesting from your own experience that it's that early connection with academics who had a passion for their subject probably obviously led you to a similar passion.
Honestly, you're absolutely right. I mean, if I tell you the truth, Professor Allan, I never wanted to join teaching as my career, honestly. I mean, it's an honest opinion. Even today, I can say this with all pride. But when I actually, I mean, I could get an opportunity to really interact with those, I mean, professors who had a passion to teach and even engage the students in the classrooms. You can well imagine, I mean, mathematics is not really an ordinary piece of cake. I mean, and pure mathematics is even difficult. So, I mean, attending the classes and then, I mean, and not only attending the class, rather learning mathematics actually made me to believe that, well, this is something I really should really take up as a profession as well, so that I can bring change to the lives of those who are really looking forward to get an opportunity um, and join an institution where they can really get a good professor or a teacher who could grow, who could polish their skills and improve their extent of learning.
Fantastic. And you undertook your PhD studies at the University of Leeds in the UK.
Yeah.
So, how did being an international student differ to being a student back in Pakistan? What were the kind of the significant differences that you experienced as a postgraduate student, but also as an international student in another country?
Well, Ellen, it was absolutely a different experience. I can relate to it even now. I did my master's in computer science as well before I started my postgrad at University of Leeds. I started my PhD in way back 2003. And when I landed in, that was probably the first international trip I could ever had in my life and until that moment of time. And I still remember I landed in I think, I mean, it was, I mean, an airport next to London, not Heathrow, but the next
Gatwick, was it Gatwick?
Gatwick, yes.
Yeah.
So I landed at Gatwick and someone picked me up and it was altogether, I mean, a nostalgia. Well, I'm going to really visit places I have never been to and then joining an institution. And again, I mean, if I share with you, University of Leeds was the only university I had ever applied for, starting a degree in mathematics when I couldn't really secure the funding and other stuff. So I completed my first degree from Pakistan. And it was really a kind of sense of, I mean, gratitude. I mean, having that sense of accomplishment in a way. Well, I once wished to be at University of Leeds, and here I am. So that was the first day. But being an international student and one who has never been to such a place was a challenge at the same time. But these established institutions have all infrastructure and allied facilities available to honestly make an international student feel at home. I can still remember, I mean, the accommodation services, the student services, the students' union, and even especially coming to School of Computing, the postgraduate student advisor and all these kind of facilities, you never feel that you may get lost in these procedural kind of difficulties or challenges. So it was all helpful when I joined my school. And yes, I mean, it was wonderful an experience. Although you feel homesick, you may really have to adapt yourself with the changing with the cultural aspects as well. Living in the dorms or maybe and living in a student accommodation was a bit different experience compared to my own lifestyle in Pakistan. So, but that honestly helped me to really develop in my own self the patience and an ability to really adapt to the situations, which really helped me in my professional early career days as well. I mean, because this is something you would experience when you even start working, and even today probably when we come across different situations which are not really as desired or as expected sometimes.
And of
So,
course, the location of the University of Leeds is just around the corner from Headingley Cricket Ground. So I'm
yes.
sure you would have felt at home with Yorkshire County cricket.
That's right. I mean, yeah, I mean, we would watch the cricket matches in Headingley, and then we had this, the park next to
Hyde
Leeds,
Park, would it? It would be Hyde
Hyde
Park.
Park,
Yeah,
exactly. Yes, I mean, so and such a nice place to live. And since I used to live, I mean, next to the Hyde Park, so would cross the Hyde Park every morning and go back through the Hyde Park to the places I used to live. So these are good old memories, honestly,
great.
Ellen, which I really cherish. But those university days really groomed me. I would still believe that in a way which helped me to really further ground or I mean develop the skills and provide me the grounding to start the professional career with the raised baselines, I would say.
Terrific. And of course, your knowledge of student life now is quite extensive, having led several universities. So, what do you think are the main challenges for today's students compared to the days that you were a student?
I think I mean a lot has changed, and especially due to probably I would say surely due to technological interventions available around. The technology enhanced learning, although has some advantages when it comes to improving the extent of learning, especially for those who are average students, they can get really complementary support outside of the classroom activities as well to improve their learning. And even, I mean, if you say on a lighter note, even to in the social circles, I mean, in my days, probably in your own days, these social media technologies were not really mature enough to provide the students, I mean, a feel of having a community around you, so with whom you can really interact. So these are the good things the students can get an experience and can get benefit of. But I think although we were a bit of constrained that we had to really do everything by our own self, whether you are coding, whether you are to really, get the literature, you have to visit the library, you have to really go to different databases to sort out which relevant literature you should read or is relevant to your own areas of research. This technology and applications have provided lots of facility and facilitation to the students. Sometimes I feel probably they lack that confidence level where the students would get horizontal knowledge as well while really reviewing the literature or, I mean, reading different books and having an interaction with the professors and, faculty members around with the postgraduate students as well, joining the coffee rooms and over the maybe where the postgraduate students and faculty would be around. So you'll be sharing with them what I'm doing and what they are doing. And so this interaction had its own strength when it comes to really learning the new things and even improving your own extent of learning. But this technology has made the students really to confine themselves to their own shorter neighborhood where they are more onto these machines and have a community which is virtually available, whom they hardly really interact. So that's actually the negative side, maybe, or a difficult side for a person like myself who actually believes the students to be in the playgrounds and the gym and the maybe student union office and in the Hyde Parks, et cetera, et cetera. So that kind of these disruptive technologies have, although given some advantages, but at the same time, we normally experience these socio cultural challenges, I would say, especially for the international students.
And I think that is very true. I think we've seen that change happen over a period of years, and therefore trying to kind of provide this wider immersive experience into the social dimension is I think a challenge facing many universities. Do you think, are there any particular strategies one could deploy to address that in trying to reconnect students with this kind of broader social interaction?
One intervention which I could really think of, and then we implemented it to an extent, was at my previous job place when I was heading a university which primarily offers programs in the virtual or I mean a distance education or in blended education mode. We digitally transformed that university, and then we actually, I mean, this concept of hybrid learning and blended learning came a bit later, but honestly, I still remember, that university was established in 1974, and we improved on to those baselines. We actually had some technological interventions made available to the students and to the faculty members. But this aspect, we came across with an idea of providing an accelerated mode of learning environment to the learners when they would visit my regional offices, or they'll visit, we used to hire these satellite classrooms as well, which were actually available physically in a remote site at a degree college or at a university, for example. And the student living in that vicinity would really then be required to come for maybe 8 days or 10 days or 2 weeks, twice in a semester, to interact with their senior tutors and even the fellow classmates, to exchange their ideas and to really know each other well. So instead of really only looking at each other on these devices and interacting with them virtually, we try to provide them this facility twice in a semester by really engaging them in a physical classroom environment as well, which helped a lot. And then we used to actually organize different kind of sports and social activities once at least in a semester, maybe twice in a year, so that we can really bring all these boys and girls from across the country to maybe one place at some or other, and provide them that student experience, which is actually in itself has an importance. You learn a lot from your peers when you are studying in a university like, for example, Leeds or any other university of the world, where you have 60,000, 70,000 students on campus coming from all parts of the world. That experience you lack when you actually confine yourself, in a virtual environment.
Yeah. Well, we'll come back to some of the challenges of virtual environments in a moment. But obviously, you've led a career devoted to education. And what would you suggest are the most important aspects to you as an educator?
Once you actually are interacting with undergrad students, for example, at any level, or a postgraduate class, maybe, I've experienced this feeling many a times. I sometimes would have really wet eyes or tears in my eyes when you look at the faces of these young boys and girls who are really aspiring to improve their learning and start their professional careers. They have their own agendas at the back of their head, which they are pursuing. And if you could really provide them a bit of counseling and in-class learning, when you look at the satisfaction and engagement and on their faces, when you look at their gestures, that sense of contentment, it's matchless. It's priceless. And that feeling actually then keeps you motivated and engaged, that you really put in more efforts to really engage these boys and girls who have aspirations in mind. So you are actually making them actually achieve their targets of life, giving them hope, giving them their actually an ability to achieve their targets and the goals they might have set for themselves. So that's the best thing I would say. I've gradually developed, and I still am really do much really to further improve in my own self. That's the best part of teaching, honestly.
Which is marvelous, because I think what you've just done is illustrate the things that you're known for, which is your belief in your commitment to the transformative power of education. And of course, now in your current role in the Higher Education Commission, in many ways, it gives you a hand onto the levers which you can begin to influence the transformative power on a national level. So what role do you see higher education playing in transforming society, prosperity, and change in Pakistan?
Well, and before Alan, I respond to this, when I was being interviewed for this position, there was a high-powered selection board who was interviewing me. And the chairperson of this organization, who is still chairperson of Higher Education Commission, he asked me, Dr. Zia, you remained vice chancellor for quite some time and at senior management roles. Vice chancellor is a position the academics sometimes really aspire for, and it is at the highest position in that academic ladder when you become vice chancellor of an institution anyway. You carry the responsibility, but it gives you a sense of achievement as well at the same time. Why are you choosing to really join an organization where you'll have a person staff only sitting next to your office, and the organization size, as my organization is, almost 1,000 or 1,100 people working in this organization, and it's maybe a room which is my office and my workplace, and then you're confined to it. Why you are going to choose such an opportunity, comparing it with the kind of contribution you actually give while working as vice chancellor of an institution, and the flexibility in your role to improve the state of affairs, at least in your own university? I said, I'm coming by choice, because I think if I could do something good when I was working at these senior management positions in the universities, I think I should play my role to work with an organization which is mandated to prepare the policies and prepare the strategies for promotion of teaching and research in my country. So this is by choice, and I still believe I don't have any regrets. I'm thoroughly enjoying my stay in HEC. Luckily, I could really. We hired few senior colleagues who head the divisions of HEC, the academics division, the IT division, or the research division, et cetera, et cetera. And as you said, for my own self and for the organization, we set an agenda for ourselves. For the first couple of months, during the first couple of months, we'll be now re-reviewing the policies which we have on the table, whether they are really relevant even today in the days to come, because we are not producing the graduates from the universities who are relevant today. They are to be relevant down the road after 10 years, 20 years. They are to be globally competitive graduates. And for that, HEC is to come up with the policy scaffolding, which can then enable the universities to improve their own teaching and research environments and set the policies right. So we have come up with 7 or 8 different policy interventions during this 1 year's time, with the very rigorous consultative sessions with the stakeholders, with the university professors, with the vice chancellors. And I have an advantage when I talk about these consultative sessions or engaging the colleagues and the stakeholders. I remained in this profession, and especially in the universities, for about 3 decades. The vice chancellors are my fellow colleagues, friends as well. So if I request them, really, let's sit together. That's the advantage I only carry in HEC, that they are my community. I can always really request them for these kind of consultative sessions. We are also in the process of now actually addressing 2 basic challenges, or two most important challenges my sector is currently confronting, with lack of qualified faculty members available in the universities, and secondly, improving the accreditation and accreditation process in the universities, which then in turn would further improve the quality education as really imparted, and the learner's experience are not really compromised. So yes, I mean, it's a wonderful experience, and I'm looking forward to really having more challenging days to come in my 4 years tenure here.
And it's quite interesting that the point you make that, as a former vice chancellor with a lot of experience of leading institutions, you're now in this central role, regulatory role, pulling levers to try to shape. Do you see the role of the Commission as an enabler or as a sort of a directional leader for the sector?
I mean, few of my colleagues, I mean, when we actually use the term regulator, it is more like policing and auditing. I mean, an organization would be doing policing and auditing of the stuff. I normally say to my colleagues, I said, and even within my HEC colleagues within HEC, we are the enablers. We are the facilitators. I'll enable them with the policy scaffolding. I'll enable them by giving them different standards and policies so that they can then implement those strategies or policy infrastructure interventions into their institutions. My task is all served. But yes, sometimes you have to invoke your regulatory role in any case. Sometimes, although it's not really very much appreciated, but yes, we carry that regulatory role, which we hardly invoke, honestly. I normally say, why any of the vice chancellor would really like that his or her institution is being questioned about anything which is lacking there, whether it is student satisfaction is not really up to the mark, or whether the teaching activities are not really up to the mark, or even the policies are not being implemented rightfully. Why would anybody really like to really listen to these kind of comments from HEC side? But yes, there are exceptions everywhere. We have that regulatory powers, which we have to invoke sometime, which we unwillingly anyway invoke. But things are gradually getting better, honestly, with more interaction with the universities. And since all these interventions are being taken back to the stakeholders, and their actually input and suggestions are incorporated appropriately. So the sense of ownership is gradually developing, and I'm pretty sure that within next only a year or so, I'll see a significant change in the academic and research culture in the organization. I'm also working on other policies we can talk about in the later part of the discussion.
I mean, you mentioned about the importance of higher education essentially operating within a global environment, the fact that you want to have globally competitive graduates. But I believe the Commission has embarked upon a very kind of proactive strategy towards globalization, not least through your new transnational education policy. Can you say something about that?
Yeah, I mean, this is something I really take pride in. And just to, again, I mean, emphasize the fact that it has to be developed in a consultative fashion and by engaging the stakeholders. We were in a close cooperation with British Council Pakistan. And then we visited UK. I met colleagues from ACTIS. I met colleagues from Office of Student as well. And I met Professor Sir Steve Smith in Department of Business and Trade. I met colleagues from Ministry of the Education Department as well. And we iterated that draft with colleagues in Department of Business and Trade and Education and British Council. And then we had a Vice Chancellor's conference in Islamabad. I shared that draft with the Vice Chancellors. And the object, and that after having that actually semi-finalized draft, when we shared it with the Vice Chancellors and with the Office of Business, Office of Sir Steve Smith, we have notified it. And the objective is, one, improve the inclusivity. Professor Allan, there are around 35,000 students from Pakistan studying in different institutions of Pakistan, probably in top maybe 3 or 4 countries of the world, you would find this number of students in British universities. But there are honestly millions of students who couldn't really either secure admission, or they don't have really adequate financial support available to, join these best universities of the world and even around the world. So this TNE policy, it was long pending, and I'm happy that we could really announce this transnational education policy. We are now engaging the universities to establish campuses in Pakistan. HEC is going to take the responsibility of ascertaining that all standards which the parent university would really expect that it is to be implemented in these satellite campuses. HEC is ready to take that responsibility. So we have a regulator now on board, and that's why I met Office of Student in UK as well. And at the same time, not only the campuses will be established at a lesser cost. If the young boys and girls in a country of 250 million people, where almost 150 million young boys and girls are between the age of 18 and 28. So look at the potential of this country. But if I cannot really provide them the opportunities at a competitive fee structure, but with the same quality standards, I believe that it is my job to really provide them these kind of facilities. And even University of London used to offer external degree programs. We have actually now, a policy for offering these external degree programs because it was being compromised at some places as well. I met with the Vice Chancellor of University of London, the new Vice Chancellor as well. And I'm really grateful that she realizing that some of our concerns are really genuine and need addressing. We are reviewing all TNE operators in Pakistan now, and they won't be really allowed to operate unless and until the parent university in the UK and HEC both actually give them an NOC to operate in Pakistan. Again, safeguarding the interests of those learners who join these institutions really to achieve their own career goals and targets in mind.
So this will kind of
Yeah.
this will lead to a real kind of expansion of provision and high quality provision, as you say, under some kind of a broad regulatory environment, which is very important in the context of TNE, but certainly, lead to greater numbers participating in higher education within the country and leading to the very transformational role that you see for higher education. So it seems to me that it's a very important policy.
If I may further add, Professor Allan, only for a minute, the socioeconomic change, if this country is to really achieve, that is to come from these academic institutions. The human resource required is to be produced by these academic institutions. So we need to focus on improving the state of affairs in the educational sector. And by bringing these actually institutions in Pakistan, it would create a sense of peer competition as well. It would raise the academic standards even in other institutions as well. People would start comparing anyway.
Yeah.
And then we are writing a project, actually, we are going to submit this year to Government of Pakistan, and UK government hopefully would be really providing matching grant in that project as well, where we are trying to further promote TNE policy by providing some funds to enable mobility of the students between a campus in Pakistan and the university in the UK, and even the professors may be provided some support to really join these campuses in Pakistan on their maybe secondment, or maybe, teaching a course for a semester or so in a Pakistani institution, so that the academic and research culture further improves and the apprehensions about this transnational education policy are really addressed through improving this mobility model as well.
Yeah, and I think that those countries which have had quite a long history in becoming hubs of higher education, the likes of Singapore, Malaysia, for example, very long histories of TNE, they have demonstrated this kind of importance of using this policy as a key driver for expanding their higher education and transforming their societies.
Very true, very true. And look at Singapore, only maybe in 3 decades.
Yeah.
And then, it's altogether, you find the ranking universities in Singapore, and even look at their per capita income and the GDP, and you name things. The catalyst is investment in education.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is quite interesting that you say the catalyst is investment in higher education. Probably some of the kind of legacy systems, for example, the UK. That's a message we keep trying to reiterate with probably a equally challenging economic environment as well. I'd like to kind of move on a little bit to another potentially transformative issue for higher education. I think I mentioned, well, we've already touched on it. I mentioned in my introduction about your academic subject being very much around AI and computing. I don't think there are many leaders of national higher education systems that have such a kind of in-depth knowledge of one of the subjects of potential transformative change in higher education, and that's the potential use of AI. I mean, how do you see AI featuring in HI? I mean, I know it's early days, but it's beginning to have quite an early transformative effect. Where do you see it? Where do you see it going in the coming years?
I mean, it's a double-edged sword. And before really replying and responding to your very important question, Ellen, I remember, I mean, my professor who was professor of automated reasoning and a president of AAAI, and I mean, so way back 22, 23 years ago, I remember, I mean, they used to talk about ethics in AI and ethical challenges we may really come across down the road. Looking at the research trends, we were actually, we could really see in early 2000 or so. But here we are. I mean, the privacies are compromised, I mean, in one form or other. I mean, we see the challenges around us, although it has brought in lots of other good things alongside, but there are actually challenges as well, and higher education sector is not an exception at all. I would say we cannot really keep our eyes away from these technological developments which are happening around. So last year, we have started working on coming up with a policy document to be shared with the universities, the impact of using Gen AI-based applications by the students or by the faculty members. We have to really come up, and I normally talk about it. I say, well, and it was probably even 1.5 years ago or 2 years ago, I gave a keynote and I said, the definitions of academic integrity, innovation, creativity, and newness have altogether changed with these new, actually, frameworks available around us. So what could be the new definition of academic integrity? What is the innovative idea we normally talk about when someone is going to submit a proposal for starting his or her PhD degree or any research degree? We have to embrace that whatever is being generated through these intelligent engines and AI agents, let's consider, I mean, this is my personal view, let's consider it the baseline document. And now the faculty members and the students have to scratch their heads and think, can I really think better than whatever is already available to me in terms of research interventions, in terms of, for example, improving the lecture content or the content which these applications have produced for me to deliver a lecture in the class. Can I really further improve it? One, can I understand it? And secondly, can I really further improve it? If a student is actually using this ChatGPT or other maybe now DeepSeek kind of applications to solve your coursework, whether you can really engage him or her to understand, you should know what's happening. And I normally give the example to my students and even to my fellow colleagues. I'm a generation of those teachers who, when I was doing my master's, the COBOL was the last language and even probably the C, the low-level C language, which we would really use to program. And then we have now a series of these development environments available. So I'm a programmer of those old ages when you used to use Fortran or COBOL or maybe C. But I'm not irrelevant if I really keep myself updated with the latest developments in the domain. If I keep myself, if I'm updated with the recent research actually dimensions, especially in my own area, unless I remain updated, I won't be relevant. So we need to create this sense of lifelong learners, whether it's faculty member or even for the students. We need to accept it exists and it's very much there.
Yeah.
We need to come up with a policy structure, how to really acknowledge this piece of paper coming before you as an outcome of any such an application, which is based on large language models. But life is pretty easy. If you, I remember, preparing a lecture for a 1.5 hour class used to take hours and hours. So that time is saved. And the thing is, how alternatively, in the best way, I can use that time to further improve these baselines and raise these baselines in terms of really improving the learning experience of the learners, or even adding more innovative an idea in a research proposal which these engines might have produced. So it's very much there, and it's going to completely transform the higher education sector of Pakistan. And I'm very mindful of the fact I started talking about micro-credential based learning probably 6 or 7 years ago or 8 years ago, and it's very much there now. The important thing is, can we really create the content which is contextualized to the local needs and fits well into the curriculum when we gradually actually raise the knowledge level of the students while implementing a scheme of study in a degree program.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
And so in the context of what I would suggest is a kind of a rapid introduction and an accelerating introduction and use of large language models, there's a kind of an element of uncertainty and fear as well, particularly amongst faculty. And I think you're absolutely right about the kind of concept of lifelong learning, professional development, but it has to happen quickly. Because many of our students are, such digital natives in many ways that they're probably advanced users compared to many of our staff. Do you see that as one of the kind of critical challenges in this?
Don't you think, Professor Allan, that it's a blessing in disguise as well? If I'm not really loyal to my profession, the system should really weed me out. That's it. Yeah. If I cannot really justify my position as one who is to give something better to the learners, better than what they already know, and enable them and make them that lifelong learners, unless I'm a lifelong learner and I continuously update my knowledge base, I can't really inspire these young boys and girls who are far better than me, honestly, I say, in terms of their intellect and ability to adapt to these technological changes happening around. So this is one thing. But at the same time, the institutions are coming up with the strategies to enable their faculty members as well. They're investing a lot, honestly. And at HEC, last year, we actually have come up with an idea of a 3-tiered training structure for faculty members and even for the administrative staff. So when I say 3-tiered structure, for the lecturers and assistant professors, we have this lecturer, assistant professor, associate professor, and professor tier. So for the early career starters, we have developed a module where we give those who are going to start their career, or those who are even in their early days of the career, they have joined the career, but they are in the early, started their career in the last 3 or 4 years. We are giving them 28 days extensive training on all aspects. It is about teaching pedagogies, especially keeping in view these technological interventions, ethics, managing the students, managing the stress, etc. So it's a 28 days comprehensive training. The level 2, the tier 2 is for the associate professors who then join certain administrative responsibilities as well. So they should know about these administrative and financial management skills as well. And the tier 3 is the top one, where we are now focusing on to the professors who are to become, for example, the deans of the faculties and the pro VCs and the deputy vice chancellors, or maybe sometime the vice chancellors. And for this tier, we will be sending them abroad anyway, any country. We are spending a lot this year on faculty development programs. HEC is funding it through the funding of Government of Pakistan. And to provide a conducive supporting environment, these 3 tiers again are implemented in the administrative letter as well. So yes, we have started working on it. And that's the only way really to enable the faculty members as well and to really address that fear you just talked about.
Yeah, and I think it's a really important dimension to focus on building capacity and capability, given the expansion and the rapid change of your system in Pakistan, alongside these other challenges, not least, the disruptive challenges that we have through the likes of AI. And I think that's a really important policy that you're bringing to support that change. Coming back to a little bit on AI, I remember in the late 1990s, early 2000s, when learning management systems were being introduced and rolled out in universities, and they were often seen as transformative tools. And the debate at the time was very much about whether to go for proprietary models and products versus those homegrown or even open source. And as we know, universities like to grow their own often. Are we kind of having a similar debate here with AI? And is there a choice, or should we be focusing on open source or going for more of the proprietary models?
I have a balanced view about it. There are few proprietary solutions which, when it comes to mission critical applications, yes, I would prefer to use maybe the proprietary kind of applications which are tested, where for which I can get really support and trainings to for the users, etc., etc. But I'm also mindful of the fact that a huge cost is associated while we procure these proprietary solutions. And for a developing country like my country, we can't really afford that luxury in most of the cases. When it comes to platform, we are providing the proprietary platforms to the students free of cost. So that's a cost associated. So whosoever is studying in Pakistani universities, they get a licensed software. So that I give that message of no piracy, let's observe the copyright laws, etc., etc. But when it comes to designing the applications, as you said, LMS, I was able to lead a team at my previous workplace where we customize our own learning management system using an open source version available. And we did a major customization of that solution already available. And it's a wonderful now learning management system available where we could connect Professor Allan. That's a case study as well. We're writing it. 143,000 students in one day in 100 virtual classrooms in parallel. So the data center and then the scalability addressed, and we could connect in one day 143,000 students. And in 100 classrooms, we'll have 100 teachers actually delivering the lectures in a synchronous mode. So that kind of actually customization we could do, and saving the cost at the same time. I agree. For AI applications, now there have been many companies in Pakistan who are using open AI actually standards, and the API is already available, and technologies available to really come up with their own solutions, which are more localized, addressing the local needs of the country, whether you're talking about a university or even in the government sector as well. Lots of development activities are now going on where we are trying to avoid these proprietary solutions instead. And even, all these applications are free as well. We can use the APIs to really, instead of really reinventing the wheel and writing for our own self, we can make use of these technologies anyway and can write our own applications. It's not the cost which matters at the moment, I believe, or is to be the topic of discussion or a concern. The topic of concern and topic of discussion should be how to really make best use of these technologies in the governance structures, in improving the governance structures and improving the learning environments in the universities. So that's more important, actually.
Yeah, I think universally that's an issue, and I think there are many in institutions who are trying to address that, and I think we'll see some common conclusions emerging, which probably will have international applications as well, which will be terrific. I mean, it seems to me, Dr. Zia, that you're sitting in your seat in the HEC at an opportune time. You've you know, your focus on the TNE agenda will drive change and expansion in higher education in Pakistan. And of course, the kind of digital transformation and the use of technologies will also transform and expand higher education in Pakistan. And given the importance of higher education, as you pointed out, to the transformation of the country as a whole, it seems that you're going to be playing quite a leading and important role in this, and you must feel very kind of privileged to be in that position.
Yes, I mean it's a important position, but I can see the challenges as well, Professor Allan. But I'm not really worried about the challenges, provided I can really contribute to the, I mean, to the minimum level. If I could set the direction right, if my organization could really propose certain policy frameworks for promotion of teaching and research in the country, and then engaging the universities really to adapt and adopt those kind of policy interventions, I'm pretty sure that we'll be able to further improve the state of affairs in our own country, especially in the higher education sector. And just to mention, I mean, when it comes to increasing the access and gender equity, I mean, you'll be happy to know, I mean, that's on our agenda again. We gave the open distance learning policy of Pakistan just to improve the access rate. So it is primarily technology enhanced learning. We'll be making best use of AI technologies to design the content which can provide an engaging experience to the learners. I'm talking to different funding agencies internationally even to create 50 best model universities of Pakistan. So it is an overambitious project. I'm trying to secure funds for it. I know what to do about it. I have actually the team working with me. It would be a 3 to 4 years project. And at the same time, open distance learning would improve the access rate from 13% to 25 to 30% in next maybe 5 years. The girls' education, we are submitting a project to Government of Pakistan to specifically address the marginalized communities of the society, including girls, maybe at some places of the country. Although we could improve it from 31% to 48% in higher education sector of Pakistan with this concerted efforts of last 2 decades, but it needs to be further improved. So we'll be submitting a project for actually providing financial support to, for example, orphans, wards of shuhada, who might have lost their lives while safeguarding the geographical boundaries of this country. And similarly for the girls, transgenders. So any part of the society which could be really considered as marginalized or challenged, HEC, through the support of Government of Pakistan, shall further fund their studies. And that's the motive is actually mobilizing the community to play her role in the development of this country. And that's the only way forward.
I mean, I think what you've just described there is an incredible kind of vision and way forward, but also a kind of it's reality now for you, and it's technology that is enabling you to do this. And I think it's a good example how, you know, developing countries now are using technology to make significant leap forwards in their education systems to transform what will be the basis of their society. So I think quite quickly we will see that change, and which is great. You know, it's great down. And if I may kind of sort of end our wonderful conversation with a question about, based on, you know, with the wealth of experience you've now had on leading institutions, leading academics, and now leading a national system, what advice you might offer to aspiring leaders in your sector within Pakistan in particular?
One thing is, let's embrace the technology. we can't really live now without it. But secondly, whatever we actually envisage has to be really translated, on ground as well. That's equally important, because we may envisage to really have a wonderful plan of improving state of affairs, but if it's not a well thought of plan, which we lack sometimes actually when we prepare these overambitious plans, if you don't have the right person, the right team working with you, it would be more risk really to actually embark upon this journey of using the technology to improve governance, financial administration, administrative administration, overall governance structure, and the learning environment in the universities. It has to be all-inclusive, well thought of plan, and unless the relevant teams are available around you, not only to give their input while designing the policies or preparing the policies, but at the same time, more importantly, while executing it, these plans to actually see the changes on ground. I think, that's something which I would request my colleagues, especially in Pakistan. And this is more important when we are actually financially constrained as well. And thirdly, we don't have enough time, honestly, to waste, to think about and miss this bandwagon again. We need to really rub our shoulders against our peers within minimum possible time. We can't really wait for another decade or 2 decades really to raise our standards of education and produce the graduates who take pride in graduating from institutions of Pakistan. And even they are competitive to really join any institution around the world as an academic or as a postgraduate student. Things are gradually getting better in every ranking every year. Pakistani institutions are now are found better placed. So the dividends are now paying off. So hoping that whatever we have in mind and with the support of government of Pakistan and people around, we can actually, I'm hoping that we serve the cause of education better than the previous day and in the days to come.
Dr. Zia, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your experience with us on this Studiosity podcast. You are genuinely reimagining higher education for Pakistan in your role, and I'm sure you will be successful in the delivery of that as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Allan, and it was wonderful, honestly. It was a pleasure talking to you as well.
You have been listening to Studiosity's podcast, Reimagining Higher Education, candid conversations within higher education, sharing stories of leadership, change, and best practice in teaching and learning. Visit studiosity.com.